Listen, I saw the show yesterday. I absolutely 100% agree with Craig. You know, I can understand why Sarri put his team out the way he did because, you know, 4-5-0 against Huddersfield. He maybe thinks that it's all back. They know what they're doing. But when you are getting annihilated, you've got to do something. And he didn't do anything. I mean, it's just not acceptable. But the other thing that struck me was Jorginho. What does he do?
Yeah.
I mean, what does this guy do? Because he only ever passes the ball, in my opinion, 5 yards somewhere, right? And I hear everybody talking about, well, all the things he does go unnoticed. Well, but you don't notice it because he doesn't do anything. This is a guy who basically is only working when he has the ball. Because when he doesn't have the ball, he doesn't do anything. He does not defend. He either can't get around, he can't read it, and he can't organise people in front of him to try and protect himself. And he certainly can't protect the back four. Now, if only Chelsea had somebody who was a proven winner at protecting the back four. You've got a guy in Kante who's got 2 Premier League winners' medals, and both teams, he was a major reason why they won it, sitting in front of the back four. He's got a World Cup winners' medal, sitting in front of the back four, but yet you have him way out somewhere in the right wing. It just makes no sense. Every decision he makes no sense, pretty much.
Mark, what's the reaction been in the UK to what took place and Sarri's setup?
Well, the reaction has been, as typical with Chelsea, whenever they suffer a heavy defeat, it's been, what does Roman Abramovich think? What's he going to do next? But obviously, Abramovich has taken a bit more of a backseat in recent times, so Sarri survives today. But the reaction has been that, like Steve was saying, this guy's too stubborn, inflexible. You know, the last 3 away games in the Premier League, they conceded 12 goals and not scored any. And, you know, one of those was a 4-0 defeat at Bournemouth. So it's like, you know, you're right about Jorginho. He's too slow. He doesn't do anything. There are people who say, oh, well, at Napoli he did this and he did that. Well, he's not at Napoli anymore. He's at Chelsea in the Premier League, and he's been found out because every team is now putting a man on Jorginho, and he's shutting him down. And the passes are sideways or backwards. He doesn't make a killer pass forward. And, you know, for me, you're taking Kante's strengths out of that team by playing Jorginho there. So Sarri for me is a dead man walking in that job because, you know, Scolari was sacked 10 years ago this weekend, had a better record than Sarri. They were 4th back then and 5 points clear of Arsenal. So, you know, times have changed at Chelsea perhaps, but I've said this before, there's no way that Sarri for me will be at Chelsea next season. They're not going to win the Premier League with him in charge because he's never won anything in his career, and he's not a guy that you'd think will win things. I just don't see how he can with that. He's already been found out, and I don't see it getting any better.
It depends how much Roman Abramovich fears missing out on Champions League football again. Now, of course, they've got the League Cup final to come, and of course they could, you know, potentially win the Europa League, which is an entry into the Champions League. So, I mean, it's not. I don't think he'll be throwing the baby out with the bathwater just yet. However, you know, it's the inflexibility that kills me. You know, I don't sit here and say, you know, Maurizio Sarri doesn't deserve to be in the job, or he hasn't got a clue, but it's the inflexibility or stubbornness, call it what you want. And Stevie said to not change anything, to continually do the same thing and do the same thing and do the same thing. And it's worked against, you know, Huddersfield, and it's worked against certain other smaller teams. But when Aaron Ramsey was put on him in the Arsenal game, it stifled Jorginho, and Man City just completely obliterated Chelsea. I mean, when you can bring David Silva, Jesus and players like that off the bench, it's quite scary. But just to go back, we talked about Jorginho in the summer when Stuart Robson was over, and whilst we didn't, you know, kill the guy, we didn't seem to catch on to all the sort of overhype that was going around him, and Chelsea fans in particular were absolutely bombarding us with the usual nonsense. And that was 7 months ago, so everybody in this show was saying, listen, just wait a minute. As Mark Ogden said, it's not Napoli, it's Chelsea. It's a different scenario. It's the Premier League. It's a different pace. Let's see how he does. And whilst he hasn't been a disaster against some teams, against the bigger teams in general, he's been caught out.
Is he stubborn, or is he a one-trick pony? You know, Empoli 4-3-3, Napoli 4-3-3, Chelsea 4-3-3. Nothing. You've never seen anything else with any of his teams ever. Is that all he can do? And by the way, if that's all he can do, he ain't doing a very good job at it.
You just don't get Sarri balls, Steve.
What is it?
But you know what else is quite
I'll tell you
incredible?
what, you know who doesn't get it either? The Chelsea players.
Do you know what
More
else
importantly,
is quite incredible? That there are people out there who think the Manchester City manager in particular is inflexible. Always, he's one of the most flexible managers out there when you look at what he does. In fact, at times he kind of overcomplicates it. But he'll change things at that club depending on personnel and opposition. He'll either do it for that reason, or he'll do it to freshen it up, or he'll do it because he's got an idea. As Stevie said, and we've seen it all along, when Chelsea play their next game, we know the formation now. 4-3-3. There's only 2 players in the Premier League that could attempt to do the job that he's asking Jorginho to do. Now, all right, I get all this regista nonsense, he's a passing, holding midfielder, as if nobody's ever had, even back 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, midfielders that could pass the ball and play a bit deeper. But you've got to have a defensive capability as well, and he can't do it. There's only 2 players in the Premier League that could do that. One is in the team, and he's killing them, N'Golo Kante, and the other one is probably the best player in the Premier League at that, and Fernandinho. Right? The only 2 players that could even attempt to try and do that job of playing out from the back and covering centre-halves and full-backs. He can maybe pass the ball, but he can't cover full-backs, and he can't cover track runners. He showed that with De Bruyne yesterday. And the thing is, Sarri's the only one, Gab Marcotti, that can't see it.
$60 million they bet on Jorginho.
Wow.
It's incredible. When it's top 4, will they make it?
I'm going for Man United.
I'm going to switch. I said last week before this game, I thought that Chelsea might get through this, but considering what happened at the weekend, Man United, I think, are going to be in the top 4 ahead of Chelsea.
Mark, do you agree?
Yeah, well, I said that last week, so I'm not going to change now. I think Chelsea might even finish 6th.
All right, maybe we weren't listening or watching, Mark. Just come on, all right. It's almost as if you're cold. It's almost as if you're cold and want to go inside. Jules, top 4 for Chelsea?
No, I don't think so either.
I've never known such short answers from the boys. What's up?
I don't know. Jules he's got to do the BBC in a minute.
There's no reason. You can't come up with a reason why they would be in the top 4. Probably that's why we're so sharp with our answers. I mean, you can't think of a reason why they would be.